everyone plays it, everyone likes it, it's always in trending. How do we play London system? In this video we're going to talk about some key ideas. They are not very common, but they are really strong ideas about a London system that we can use with white pieces, and it's going to be really interesting. You're going to have really good attacking positions. You can create many problems if your opponent is not familiar with this. So how to play London system? Let's talk about that. So of course we play d4, right? And black plays d5, knight f3, knight f6, and then bishop to f4, something like this. So at this point we have London system on the board. They can play, for example, e6, and we can play e3. And from now on we're going to start analyzing some interesting things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, we're going to cover here ideas when black plays d5, right? So we're talking about double queen's pawn. Of course, that's not the only thing we need to know if you're playing London, but it's basically like the first thing you need to know, because it's what you're going to face more often among beginners, and also because many of these ideas you can still use them in the other positions. So we're going to cover systems with d4, d5. That's what we're talking about in this video. Of course, in next videos we can still cover how to play when black doesn't play d5, or when black plays King's Indian, or Benoni, or any other system. Of course we can do that. So that's the situation here. We are going to play e3, and let me tell you something that is actually a little surprising, but it's very important, and it's one of the reasons I decided to make this video. And it is that almost always in a London system, in the tutorial and documentation we have about it, they are going to recommend the move h3. The move h3 is actually important in some ways to play, some setups that we can play with London, because you want to save the bishop on h2, so when they play, some knight h5, you are able to save the bishop. So in this video I'm going to tell you all the opposite. I'm going to tell you, do not play the move h3. You don't need it. I'm going to show you why. And actually you need not to play it. You need the opposite, because we are going to use that square for the queen. You're going to play queen f3, and you're going to play the move queen h3 to attack the enemy king. By the way, credit to FIDE master Ajedrez Guerrero. He has a chess channel, really amazing, with a lot of great content, and many of these ideas of not playing h3 are coming from his channel. So credit to him, feel free to check it out, and thanks Andres for such an amazing content. So at this point, as I told you, we are not playing h3, but I guess you are thinking, okay, that's great. You're, creating such a great plan. You're not playing h3 to attack. Okay, great. But how do you deal with knight h5, right? Like, knight h5 is there. You're going to lose the bishop, the London bishop. So what are you trying to do here? So basically, we don't need to worry about knight h5 because we always have a way to deal with it. Let's say black plays knight h5 right now, right? Like, for example, right now they play it. Basically, more than tell you the moves, I'm going to tell you the idea. What you're going to do when you face some knight h5 is that you're going to try to make that knight stay there. Like, you're going to make the knight useless, right? You're not going to allow the trade of the knight for the bishop. That's the strategy we are going to follow, because as long as you do that, his knight is going to be out of play on the edge of the board. So the maneuver is going to look really bad if you are actually able to do that. So after this knight h5, in this position, you have many ways to do the plan I'm saying, like bishop g5 or bishop e5. Probably you can just play bishop e5 and you're in a really good position because the knight is out of play here and it's not going anywhere. We're going to see more ideas about this kind of moves, but by now, let's say after knight f5 you just play bishop e5 and you're good. Let's say, for example, in some positions they will try bishop e7 first to make sure you don't have bishop g5, and you can play bishop d3, and if they play knight h5 now, again you can just go here, bishop to e5, and heal. In some positions they might try like this f6, attacking your bishop. And here this is actually very bad for black because they have the knight hanging there. So you can try things like knight g5. There are many tactics here with the knight hanging, and we have two pieces hanging, but this is more important because this is a check. For example, if they capture, you capture with check, and this is a really bad position for black. So maybe they want to try g6, but that's not much better. You have more tactics, more combinations. You can play, boom, knight takes h7. You are removing the defender of g6, so you're going to capture there later. This position is very good for white. It's not decisively winning, but assuming they play, super good moves, we are better. But if they don't find super good moves, they are lost, totally lost. So yeah, this is totally okay. Let me show you. Rook takes, bishop takes, pawn, and I don't know what they can do here. They just capture and you just capture. So this is very good for you. So this is another moment, like after bishop e7, bishop d3, where they are not really allowed to play knight h5. So again, we don't need h3 at this point. So far we are good. Let's say instead of knight h5 or instead of bishop e7, they just play c5, something that we are going to see a lot. We're going to see it all the time. Well, if that happens, we can just continue with normal development here, and you're going to play the move c3. Let me tell you something, just to make sure you get this. When your pawn is on c2, you must be very careful with the move c4. So if you're a beginner, you're learning to play London, make sure you get this. Like, you cannot play, or you should not play bishop d3 now, because he's playing c4, and you need the square c2. Your bishop belongs to this diagonal, you need the bishop there, right? So make sure when you play bishop d3, if he can play c4, make sure your pawn is on c3. That's like an important concept here. So we're going to play the move c3 precisely, trying to play bishop d3 later. And well, at this point, maybe you're thinking, well, what about knight h5 now? Because you're not playing h3, so your opponent can try to get your bishop. Well, knight h5 now, again, is not really going to work. This is actually winning. I mean, probably this is like the worst moment to play knight h5, because this is almost winning for white, I believe. So we're going to play here. Bishop takes knight, and rook takes bishop, right? You're trading your bishop. Okay, that's something you don't want. Maybe at some point. But the thing is that you're removing the knight, and the knight is the defender and is able to block. So now the knight cannot block, so you can give the check. I know he can still block with the bishop, but okay, again, the knight, don't forget the knight is hanging there. So you can take it, right? With the discovered, you can take it. So you just trade bishops, and you play knight e5, and then you get the knight. So that's another reason to not play knight h5, another moment where knight h5 is not playable. So, well, what happens then? Well, they can play, for example, like knight c6. And at this point, you can continue with normal setup with knight d2, right? That's what we do in London, the knight on d2, the bishop on d3, right? That's the idea. And also, let me highlight the pyramid that we create here, just in case this is the first time you see a video about London. We're going to create this triangle here, consolidating the center of the board. It's really strong, really important. It's going to give you very solid position, very solid center, so you can develop pieces around that center. It's going to be great. So the knight on d2 is totally normal. Let's say bishop e7 and the bishop on d3. And well, what happens if they play normal moves? Well, we are going to talk about that later. I'm going to show you a game where I was able to use these ideas in a really nice London system attack game. So we're going to talk about that, but again, let me show you what can happen if again they try this knight h5. This time they're not really like losing the game, but you're going to have a very good position, and we're going to use the same strategy. Remember what I said at the beginning. If your opponent tries to trade that knight for your bishop, the strategy is to avoid the trade of the knight for the bishop. That's it. So basically you can trade the bishop for any other piece, is what I'm saying, but not for the knight, because the knight is on the edge. So you want to keep that knight like dump there on the edge of the board doing nothing. That's the strategy. So knight h5, you can just play like bishop e5. And well, let's say they capture. That's probably a normal move here. You can just capture back, and again the knight is hanging. They can play knight f6 here. But the main point here, guys, is that you're in a really nice position. I mean, you have everything you wanted, like the knight in the center, good development, good control, and solid center. good ways to improve, right? I'm going to show you how you're going to improve now. So this is super nice, super comfortable. This is what you want when you play London. When you play London, you're not necessarily you're going to get decisive advantage or anything. You're just going to get a position very easy to play, very nice, very comfortable, very clear plan to attack the enemy. So that's what we wanted. So this is what we get here. For example, in this position you can play f4. That's a theoretical move, totally okay. And they can castle, and you can castle as well. And well, basically, we need to talk about the reason we did not play h3, because we said a lot at the beginning, like we're not playing h3. This is like super idea. We are the greatest players. We're not playing h3, but I haven't explained actually why not h3. I mean, what happens? Why is it so important to not play h3? And the reason is that we're going to use this square very often for the queen, and from here you're going to put pressure there. That's the key. That's one of the keys. I mean, the other key is that you're going to use it, but for the rook as well. You can still do this and bring the queen over here, or h5. But basically, you're doing it. So, but yeah, we need h3. We need it for sure, and that's why we're not playing h3. If you play h3, you don't have a way to put pressure there. You don't have a way to bring your major pieces over there. So keep that in mind. I hope that makes clear the whole point of the video. So let's say they play queen c7 here, and in these positions, as I was saying, you have two ways to play. You can leave the rook first, or you can leave the rook first, means the queen is trying to go to h5 directly, or you can leave the queen and try to go to h3, and then eventually play g4, g5 to get rid of the knight. Probably the best move is going to be queen f3, but in some positions, both plans could be working either. In some positions, one plan is going to be better, maybe, than the other. So let's say they play c4 here, bishop c2, and if they try, some counter attack over here, that's what you really want, because you are attacking very strongly on the king side. Another concept that we need to say here is that you're going to move the pawns in front of your king only in situations where the center is closed, where everything is under control. There are no open lines, for example, from the center crossing the board, or from the other side crossing the board, getting access to your own king. So in those situations, you can move your pawns if you're getting really, compensation, if you're creating problems with this pawn storm. Okay, then you can advance the pawns, because the king is safe. You're really controlling the situation. But of course, it's something you're not doing all the time, right? Only in some specific positions. As the center is closed and you're totally controlling the situation, here is all good, you're fine, your pieces are just better, then we can do it. Black plays here a5, for example, and then you can continue with g5. So that's the key, to get rid of the knight. Once you get rid of the knight, it's basically game over, almost always, right? I mean, how do you stop the attack in a situation like this? Let's say they play knight d7, and you're already winning here. There's a combination. If you want, you can pause the video, right, and think about it, but I'm going to say it very soon. In this position, you can already sacrifice. Immediately the knight is gone, just sacrifice there. It's winning. It's winning because basically you have the major pieces over here very quickly. Yeah. In some positions, you can just put more pressure with queen h3, force the move g6, that weakens everything. So they have pawns like this, and all the dark squares are weak. So you have many options with that pressure, but here it's not really necessary, because after knight d7, you can just sacrifice. Boom! Bishop takes h7. That's just winning the game. Beautiful. The thing is that after king takes h7, you just play queen h5 check, and then you're bringing the rook. So they play king here, you play rook here. And it's not clear how they stop you from, from mating, right? I mean, you're winning. There's not much they can do. For example, g6, boom. Knight takes g6. Pawn takes, queen takes, and then boom, checkmate. So g6 is not working. I don't know, they are lost. Let's say they play knight takes knight, just capture with f, right? So you can open the file. That might be very important later for the other rook, if you need it. Probably you won't even need it. Let's say, I don't know what they would play, like bishop d8, just play rook h3 here. You're mating over there. And if they try f6, don't give a check, right? You don't need it. Just play g6, make sure the king is not going anywhere, and then you're mating over there. So that's the idea. Um, in this position, it's totally winning. It's forced mate in one, right? There's nothing they can do. So that's what happens when you play London system and you don't play the move h3. Basically, you need to deal with knight h5, but I told you many ways to do it, right? Like, actually, it's not really a problem if you keep in mind all these ideas I told you. The most important concept is make sure you don't allow the trade of his bad knight from the edge of the board for your good bishop, right? Keep his knight on the edge, keep the knight there, and then you're going to be fine. Let me show you an example of a game where I was able to use some of these ideas in my own game. I was playing with white, and we had something like this, right? My opponent got into this setup precisely as we need, the double queen's pawn. And then, normal development, normal London, nothing special, just not playing a3, of course. And then after bishop d3, b6, and then boom, 95, right? Immediately I'm already moving my pieces to the right squares, to the squares where we know they are more dangerous. So the knight here allows, the queen move, clears the line for the queen. After bishop b7, I'm already thinking, you know what? My queen belongs to h3. That's why I didn't play h3. So I'm going to play here queen to f3. These kind of things are really hard to defend among beginners. So again, if you're a beginner and you learn all these ideas, they can be really, really powerful. Not only among beginners, also among strong players like professionals, this can still be annoying. For example, in a blitz game, it's not easy, right? Like your opponent suddenly moves your pieces toward the king side, it's attacking certain things. How do you defend with 2 minutes to 3 minutes in the clock? It's not so easy. So in my game, the opponent played knight fd7, trying to simplify the position and get rid of the knight. But I just continued with my plan. I just continued attacking. I played here queen to h3, threatening mate on a7. And in the game he plays f5, but also g6 is a move that you're going to see a lot. If he comes back with the knight to f6, almost for sure I'm playing g4, right? Let me show you, because then I want to play g5. So this is going to be really interesting. And this is what we were saying, right? The pressure and the ideas over there. It's really hard to defend this for black. So that was an idea. G6 is another idea, but here, as I was saying earlier, they weaken too much the dark squares if they do that. And also there are weaknesses in these squares. You have pressure here, pressure here, pressure here, pressure here. So there are many tactics like sacrifices over there. Let me show you something. You can play bishop here. They can play rook e8, and you can play knight f3, right? You're bringing more pieces to the attack. And here you're threatening something super serious. If he's not careful, he's lost. Like, even if he's careful, he might be lost. But he plays here knight f6, for example. Normal moves. Assuming there's no problem, assuming everything is fine. And then, boom, you have a combination here. This is winning. That's what happens when you play these kind of systems. Here you can play knight takes pawn, king takes knight, and then knight check. Knight check over here, I guess. Also g5 is looking super good. I think it's more or less the same. So they play king g8, then queen e6. Yeah, g5 is better. G5 is better. So knight g5 here, king g8, queen e6, and then after here, just play knight f7. Yeah, it's more or less the same. And in any case, you're going to get the queen, and you're going to continue with the attack. So it's totally won. Let me show you the mate. I think the mate is good. Oh, look at the mate. Queen f7, threatening mate here, and if they defend, you can sacrifice your queen and do a smothered mate. Yeah, like boom and boom. Yeah, just wanted to show you that idea. Okay, so that's what happens if black tries to defend with g6. In the game, my opponent tried to defend with f5. That's probably not much better, because here I continued with this idea that I have already mentioned, and it is g4. Well, actually here it makes even more sense because your king is not there, right? But also we should say that we saw g4 as a way to get rid of the knight on f6. This time we're playing g4 as a way to open lines against the enemy king, like opening here, opening here. But this is still strong and useful. In the game, my opponent plays this. I capture here. Once I'm opening lines, I'm taking pawns. the attack is just decisive. Here he plays bishop takes knight, and then I found something interesting. I said, well, I don't really have to capture back, as I can just capture here, and then I'm threatening checkmate. So this is better. In the game, my opponent uh, plays the move h6, trying to defend, because I'm threatening checkmate. And well, here I just captured the bishop. This position is decisively won for white, of course, and it's just a matter of finding the last the last moves, right? The final combination. So in the game, knight c5 is he wants to get my bishop. That's fine, but there is another sacrifice. Boom! Bishop takes h6. That is that I want to open that king because I know the rook is coming over there. So bishop h6. Let's say knight takes bishop. You take the knight, and let's say uh, in the game he tries rook f2. This is desperado already. But let's say they capture here. You just capture here, and this is winning for you. I mean, your rook g1 is coming and it's unstoppable. So in the game rook f2, this is desperation here. Of course, I just take the rook after pawn takes bishop, rook g1 check, and well, he resigned at this point. But you should know that if they move the king, for example, over here, you can give a check, and then you can get a little closer with your queen. Like, yeah, probably queen here is the best move to prevent any check by his queen. So yeah, queen f4 is the best here, forcing the only way to defend is by playing king here, and then you have check and checkmate here. Okay, so that's the idea, guys, about how to play London system. Remember, this is against d4, d5, right? These kind of positions here. I can tell you it's going to work really well, so try to, use it in your games and let me know later about your experience. Of course, if you have questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. So that's pretty much it. So I'll catch you guys in the next.